Well, I wasn't expecting a ton, and so I wasn't all that disappointed. Um, I think that climate politics and geopolitics have changed quite a lot over the last couple of years, so much so that even many of the original architects of the COP process and of the ones that produced the Paris Agreement and the Glasgow conference have come out publicly and said that this system is no longer fit for purpose, certainly not essential for progress on climate, and maybe a little bit of a sideshow when we talk about the things that are really driving the future of climate of the planet. And I think we saw that in Berlin. We saw many fewer world leaders even showing up. We saw quite limited, commitments and promises by the countries that were represented there. Not nothing. There are some meaningful progress on, I would say, especially adaptation measures, but nevertheless, this was not the blockbuster, spectacular climate event that many of these conferences have been in the past. And there are a lot of ways of thinking about that, but for me at least, I start by finding it depressing that in a period of 4 or 5 years, over the period of 4 or 5 years, the community of the world's powerful people and powerful countries have gone from treating climate as a top shelf political concern, one that interested every person and every party anywhere in the world, to one that could be treated as a kind of a sideshow and niche area of interest for only those truly invested in the story of climate change. I think that's quite unfortunate on many levels. It's unfortunate in the way in which it will expose us to future warming, the way that it will expose many millions of people, probably hundreds of millions or even billions of people, to more punishing climate impacts. And I think it's also depressing on a moral level that, a few years ago, people sitting in places like you and I sit were quite preoccupied with the fate of those most vulnerable in the face of these changes. And these days, we tend to be focused more on things closer to home. We've grown a little bit more selfish and self-interested, and frankly, turned away from the people around the world who are most in need on climate, as with everything else. So on all those fronts, I find it a kind of a depressing, distressing turn for climate geopolitics. And I would say, it's one of the two big stories that I've noted since I really started working on this area in interest. We simply have lost, climate has sort of lost its grip on politics and geopolitics. And I think the climate movement as a result is a little bit, between and betwixt as a result.